I'm Chuck Norris, President of the United Fine Arts Federation. This is Danny Lane, who just completed a video series called Champion Karate Video. And I've viewed his instructional video, and I think it's probably one of the best on the market today. And that's the reason I'm endorsing it, because I think it will be a very good video for all karate systems and all different degrees of belts. So I would highly recommend you purchase Champion Karate Video Series. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Danny Lane and welcome to Champion Karate. During my 8-volume video series, I'll be taking you through the requirements from white belt through the 8 steps to becoming a black belt in the United Fighting Arts Federation. Before I begin, I'd like to recommend these following safety guidelines while using this training tape. Always consult a physician before engaging in a program of rigorous exercise. And consult a physician immediately if any persistent pain or swelling occurs during or after periods of training. Always train under the guidance of an experienced coach or instructor to ensure the most effective and safe training procedures and techniques. Children especially should be closely supervised while training. Always warm up adequately before each workout and begin each training session slowly, gradually increasing the speed and power of your punches and kicks. Never overtrain. Overdoing it could result in an injury due to fatigue or relaxed concentration. If an injury should occur, allow ample time for it to heal before resuming practice. During our self-defense techniques, we're going to be working on wrist flex. There are 4 different angles to flex an opponent's wrist. First, we'll be working on the outward wrist flex. Working with my partner's hands, as you can see, I'm going to be bringing my wrist across, inverting it, putting my thumb on the back of his hand, grabbing the palm of the hand with my fingers. When I twist it to the outside or outward, his palm will come up. I'll be putting pressure against his wrist, pushing against his forearm. At this point, I'll reinforce my grab with my other hand. My thumbs will be crossing. As I keep twisting to the outside, his wrist will lock, then his elbow will lock, then the shoulder will lock. Eventually, his body will go in that direction. Once again, very slow on the outward wrist flex. If it's a right hand grab, reach across with your left hand, thumb on back of the hand. Twist it towards him and up, pushing in the wrist against the forearm. Reinforcing your grab, twist. you lose control. Be grabbing, stepping back with the left foot to unbalance my opponent, twisting, coming up, reinforcing my grab, taking him to the mat, driving a knee into the armpit, vicing his elbow between my legs. So again, from a single hand grab, step, twist, knee, and vice. The second wrist flex will be the inward wrist flex. Taking my partner's hand once again. The left hand come across, thumb on top. This time just bring the right hand across, thumb on top. As you turn his right wrist inward, you'll see that his body's starting to go to the floor. The palm is up, the wrist is back against the forearm. At this point, I reinforce my grab again. My thumbs will be crossing. As I keep twisting, his elbow will lock, his shoulder will lock, and eventually his body is starting to feel the pressure. From there, the elbow will come on top of his elbow, flexing down into a self-defense move. Once again, real slow. Reach across with your right hand, thumb on back of his hand, twist up, reinforce your grab, keep twisting, keeping his hand close to your body, bringing your elbow on top, flexing your elbow in towards your ribs, and creating pressure down the elbow. Now, a self-defense move using the inward wrist flex. From a grab, stepping back to unbalance your opponent, grab, twist, bring him down into a elbow lock. The third wrist flex will be the upward wrist flex. Grabbing my partner's hand, I'll be grabbing with both of my thumbs crossing on top of his hand, just like in the other two previous wrist flex. I'll be pushing the wrist back against the forearm and pushing his wrist also towards his armpit, and then flexing up. You'll notice that my opponent comes off balance at that point. So again, grabbing, both thumbs on top, pushing the wrist in, driving the wrist towards the armpit. From a self-defense situation, somebody's grabbed your clothing or your belt area, grabbing the wrist, push the hand in towards your armpit. As they come off balance, you're going to step across with your left foot, bring the hand over the head, turn and throw. Then drive the knee into the armpit area, and you have an elbow-shoulder lock. The fourth wrist flex will be the downward wrist flex. As my opponent grabs me to the chest area, you'll use the same hand position as the outward wrist flex. I'm reaching across with my left hand, grabbing my partner's hand with my thumb on the back of his hand, and then grabbing the palm of his hand with my fingers. As I twist up, reinforcing my grab again, instead of twisting onto the outside as in the outward wrist flex, I'll step back, pushing the wrist against his forearm, bringing my opponent to the mat. Once again, slowly, reach across with the left hand, thumb on back, twist, step back and push up, bringing my opponent down to the mat. Once again, a little faster, stepping back as you grab, downward wrist flex. During this phase of training, we'll be working on self-defense movements. The first one will be against a grab from behind. A grab from behind, what you're going to do is step to the right, turn your neck to the side. At the same time, reach across, grab the attacking wrist, pull it away from your neck, drive an elbow to the solar plex. Stepping back, you're going to turn your opponent's wrist up. Step back, break or hyperextend his elbow over your shoulder. Once again, if grab, before you're pulled off balance, as you step, you're going to grab the hand and drive an elbow into the body. Step back and break. Once again, a little faster. Hi-ya! The second self-defense technique will be against a similar grab, except the opponent has your wrist. From this way, we're going to step to the left. Strike with the right elbow, spinning away, reversing the wrist, kicking to the stomach. So again, if you grab from behind around the neck, and you have your wrist, step left, elbow, spin and flex, kick to the body. And once more. Hi-ya! Hi-ya! During this phase of our mat work, I'll be working on the inside and outside sweeps. In working with a partner in grappling range or close range, you'll be grabbing onto each other. The first one will be the outside sweep or major sweep. My right leg is a sweeping leg. It's going to come around behind my partner's right leg. You'll notice my heel is behind the bend of his knee. I'll be driving my leg forward and up, pushing back on his chest at the same time. Once again, once we pull him in close, leg comes around in a circular fashion. Your heel is high, driving his leg up into the air, pushing down with your upper body, taking them to the mat. A little faster. First thing is pull them in, get the distance. Second will be the sweep and push. And one more. The next one will be the outside sweep using the left leg. From a locked in position, pulling them in. You'll slide up your supporting foot. Your left leg is a sweeping leg. You'll see that I'm kicking in behind the bend of his knee, pulling his leg towards me between my legs. Once again, when you pull them in, slide up your supporting leg, your right leg, kick back, push straight back with your hands. They'll go into a back fall. A little faster. And one more. The last sweep will be the inside sweep. From a locked-in position or grappling range, I'll pull him in tight. My leg will go between his legs. I'll be going around behind the bend of his left knee, keeping my heel high, pulling his leg up, pushing straight back with the hands at the same time. Once again. And one more. During this phase of the mat training, we'll be working on the shoulder throw. First from behind. To approach from behind, what you're going to do first is reach up, grab the wrist with your left hand. Reach underneath their arm as far back as you can with your right hand, grab the clothing. Making sure that your feet's about shoulder distance apart. Squat down, drop your hips lower than their hips. Push up with the legs and hips at the same time. Bring your head towards your knee and pull them over. Okay, once again, slowly from behind. Grab. Drop your center down, lift up with your hips and legs. Pull them straight over. Once again. The second phase of shoulder throwing that we'll be working on is entering from a front position. If a punch is thrown, you'll be stepping across with your right foot, reaching under, stepping back, spinning into the same position. Once again, as a punch is thrown, you'll step across with your right foot, reach, stepping back with the left foot, dropping your hips lower, and throwing. A little faster this time. Step across, grab, bring them over the top. Once again. The second technique in our mat training will be a body drop. It's a version of the shoulder throw. If the hand is around your neck or reaching behind, grab the same way as you did in the shoulder throw, reaching back. Instead of this position, the squat position, with the feet shoulder distance apart, your right leg will be dropping back outside your opponent's leg. You'll notice that my knee is pressing in against his knee. What I'm going to be doing is pushing back with my right leg and pulling forward with the upper body at the same time. So as I'm lower, bringing them straight over. Once again, slow. Same position as the shoulder throw, except stepping outside with the right leg and back, dropping down a little lower, pushing back with your right knee against their foreleg, bringing them straight over. And once again. Now from a frontal attack, if blocking a punch, entering the same way. Reach under and grab, step, spin, drop, and pull them over. And once more. During this phase of our self-defense training, I'm going to be showing a couple of the moves individually first, then putting them into combination with each other. First move I'll be working on is the frontal choke. And facing with my partner, what I'm going to do is reach in with my left hand, grab the shoulder, reach with my right hand, wrap around the neck, pull the neck down towards the ground, circle around his neck, and come up with my forearm bone right into his windpipe. Now to lock out into a choke from this point, what you have to do is bring your right hand all the way under and grasp your own hand on top of the wrist, bringing the forearm bone into his windpipe at that point, choking. Again, reaching, coming around, and choking. Like so. Once again, reach, reverse wrap, around and lock, and choke out. Now, once you get your opponent into the frontal choke, if he's starting to push you over or you're starting to lose balance, what we're going to do is work on the backward roll, throwing them at the same time. So once you have the person in this position, if they're starting to push you or make you fall backwards, you place your left hand right in the pit of their stomach, drop to your hips, kick your leg between their legs, and ride their momentum over, coming right back up on their chest. You can still secure the choke from here or set up, place their head down, and punch or strike. Now putting the front choke and the backward throw with a self-defense move. Against a frontal attack, a push, shove, or grab, double spread block, grab, knee into the body. Push them back, grab the top of the hair, jump knee smash. From here, wrap and choke, then drop to your back, and do your backward throw. Once again, just a little faster. Hi-ya! The second self-defense move will be against a bear hug from behind. You grab securely and your arms are trapped where you can't break the hold outside or go inside. What I suggest you do is first lower the center of gravity, drop into a low straddle leg stance. Try to maneuver around, twisting, getting your leg behind their leg. At this point, trying to raise up, drive your hip forward, spread back. They should fall straight back over your leg at that point, doing a spread out technique. Once again, slowly, drop down, grab their hands, maneuver around, behind, drive your hip forward, throw your arms straight back, and throw them straight to the mat. And one more time. Drop, turn, and throw. Another version, if grabbed from behind, is doing exactly the same thing. But sometimes when you get in this position, if you're not strong enough or the other person is a lot stronger than you and you can't break out of the hold at this point, I suggest you grab the pants legs, pull the feet forward, lift them up in the air, and then fall straight back on them if you have to. So again, if you're grabbed, you maneuver around, get to this point, you can't break the hold, grab the pants, lift them up, drop back on them if you have to. One more. Grab, move, up. Yeah. The third self-defense technique will be the application of a forearm choke. By bringing your arm straight around the neck, you'll see that the forearm bone is in against the windpipe. From here, your other arm comes up. You'll be grabbing your own forearm or bicep at that point. This hand will go behind the neck, pressing the neck forward over top of your forearm bone, choking the person out at that point. Once again, real slow. Wrapping the arm right around the neck, striking the windpipe. Other arm comes into play, grabbing your bicep, pressing the head forward, and choking out at that point. Just a little faster. Now using the forearm choke in a self-defense situation. Against a push or grab, block out, grab, spin your opponent around, pull them off balance. Apply the choke at that point. If for some reason they start to pull away or get off balance, drive your hand to the base of their spine, push your hips forward, drop them down to the ground, and apply the choke from there. Once again, at regular speed. The fourth self-defense technique will involve a forearm and bicep choke. This is the third choke in this series of self-defense moves. By bringing your arm around the neck, what you're going to do is bring the bend of the elbow all the way to the windpipe, and then securing as in the other choke. The only thing is that when you flex the bicep and forearm muscle, it not only will cut off the air supply, but also the blood supply to the brain. This is one of the more vicious chokes that we use at this point. At the same time, you're pressing the neck forward with the opposite hand. Once again, slowly, coming around the neck, striking the windpipe, and then flexing the bicep and forearm, pushing forward on the head with the opposite hand, straight down, cutting off the air supply and the blood supply to the brain. Okay, from a standing position, this can be used many different ways from the front or rear, but we'll use it in a stalking type of sense. This is one of our military types of chokes. By grabbing the hair, pulling them off balance, coming straight around the neck, wrapping, grabbing, taking them right down to the ground, and then snapping the neck forward at that point. Once again, just a little faster. Grab, take them right straight down, and choke them out from that point. The first technique I'll cover during the mat work is what we call a back leg throw. I'm facing my partner. If you're being shoved or pushed or you're almost ready to go down on your back, instead of just letting them fall on top of you, what I advise doing, if they're shoving and you're going down anyway, is stick your foot right into the pit of the stomach and push straight over. I'll do it slow first. As I'm going down, place the foot right in the stomach, around the belly button, and then push straight over with your foot and your hands. Once again, a little faster, just with the leg throw. Now, another way to do this is by holding on. His momentum will carry you back up on his stomach. You'll end up on the chest, and you're able to continue to attack. The second technique I'll cover during the mat work is the windmill throw. If a person is running at you or trying to punch at you from a running distance, you could bend over, duck the punch, or block it at the same time. From here, you go straight between the legs with your right hand, coming up between the legs, at the same time lifting up with your shoulders. It's very similar to a fireman's carry in a life-saving class. Now, using their speed of the run and their momentum, all you have to do is just go on over, and they'll fall behind you. During our self-defense program, I'll be working against an attacker with a knife. The first angle will be a downward strike or a stabbing position coming down to the head. In the first technique, these are relatively simple. You're going to step away from the knife or the thrust of the knife and do a high block. You notice on my high block I have my hand open because in knife fighting or knife defense you need to grab and do a lot of trapping. The second thing from here is we're going to come down at the bend of the elbow with the forearm bone, hitting and pushing back at the same time, creating a vise with my left and right hand. I'll come under and grab my own arm with my right hand. I have his arm viced. I'm going to take him down to the mat now by just turning left and putting some tension on the upper body. In this position, I still have him in a vice position. I'm going to grab the wrist with my left hand, bring my right hand out to reinforce my grab, bring his elbow over my knee to disarm the knife or break the elbow at this point. Now at regular speed. The second one I'll work on is from a downward strike once again. If the distance is a little closer than the last distance, in other words, if the stab comes down and I happen to be at this distance as opposed to my last distance, which I was out here, this technique seems to work a little better. If you're blocking straight up over your head, it's easier, instead of striking down like in the last technique, is to reach behind his arm and then come over and grab your own wrist at this point, creating a vise with your arms in this fashion. All you have to do is pull straight down, your opponent's leg will kick out, and go straight down to the mat. You'll still have him in a vice position. In this point, you can come straight back with the elbow break over the knee if necessary. Just a little faster position. The third knife defense against a downward strike, I'll be using a block with my right hand. I'll be flowing to the left. As the stab comes down, I'll use a forearm block. You'll notice my left hand will come up inside his arm and strike the bend of the elbow. At the same time, using a circular fashion, breaking the bend of the elbow loose so I can grab his wrist at this point, twist the knife back towards him if it doesn't disarm, and then return it right back into him. If at this point you still haven't disarmed the knife, put the elbow against your chest, come up into a wrist lock. Once again, just a little faster. Hip, turn, wrist lock, outside sweep. Another variation from a downward strike would be using the cross block. At any one point in these techniques, you could dislodge a knife, but it's better to overtrain than to run out of techniques. So there's many options in the self-defense move that you could have disarmed a knife or taken care of the situation. From the strike, first of all, I drop into a stance. You'll see my cross block. My right hand is over left. My hands are open. From the 12 o'clock position or straight overhead, you're going to use a circular motion with your hands to go to your right side. At this point, at the bottom of the circle, his hand will flow naturally right into your hands. Your grip will be just like this, thumbs crossed, striking the wrist. Coming on up to this level, push in on the wrist at this point. This is one place that you could dislodge a knife. At the same time, you'll be pushing them off balance. The knife is still there, you can drive a kick right into the solar plex, stomach, or face. Bringing the right leg straight back out, step outside with your right foot. You'll bring his arm over your head and down. You'll notice I have his arm twisted and shoulder tucked. I'll bring my left leg across, dropping down, trapping his legs. As I continue to twist and torque here, his body will flip and go forward. From this position, you could push down on the wrist, dislodging the knife or breaking the wrist at this point against the ground. Now at regular speed from a ready stance. The next angle of attack from the knife I'll be working against is from a slashed position. Now, in working against angles, you have to work also high, center, and low, so the blocks may vary. In this position, the attack is coming towards my neck or upper body area. It's coming from the right side. So what I'm going to do is step in, do a double forearm block. You'll notice I'll be blocking at the wrist and at the bicep. Both of these points have pressure points where this could, if I block sharply, possibly could have dislodged the knife at that point. If not, my left hand is going to snake over. At the same time, my right hand is going to be striking the neck with my forearm. My left hand will come up and grab my own bicep. I'll have him in an elbow lock at this point. Let me enter once again for that. Blocking, snake under, wrist lock. If this position he still has a knife, you're still struggling, we'll use the left foot to cut back behind the bend of his right knee, right here in an outward sweep. It's important to go to the mat with your opponent to maintain control. Your knees can go one on his head and body. You still have him in a nice elbow lock at this point. If you flex forward or outward, you can dislodge a knife at that point. Now at regular speed. The second technique I'll work against the slash will be to the middle. The block I'll be using is called a general block. When I'm moving in, one arm will be low, one arm will be high. This will give me coverage all the way from the groin all the way to my head, in case I don't know exactly where the strike's coming. So as I see the strike coming to this side of my body, I'll step in. Either my left or my right arm should block that. In this case, both arms are touching. My right arm at the bicep, my left arm at the wrist. From this point, it's very similar to the downward strike position we used earlier. You're going to push up with your left hand. Your right arm is going to come behind and over, grabbing your own wrist. We use this technique in the second downward strike. From here, all you have to do is torque downward on the arm. Your opponent will go straight down to the mat at this point. You can either retain or let go and let them land on their back. Once again, a little faster. Against the third angle of a slash, this time it will be coming around my belt or lower. As it comes in, if you don't have time to react, if you just turn your waist, even if your hands are down, bring your wrist straight across using a wrist block here. You'll notice that my wrist is hitting right where the nerve center is behind his wrist. So from here, if I hit just properly, you could dislodge a knife at that point, using this bone just behind your fist area. In working that, another variation of that, if the slash comes, continue to bring the arm up and over in a circular fashion, what we call a sling. What you're trying to do is to sling the knife off to the side or redirect the attack. We'll do that once again a little faster. Coming in, up, over, and sling the knife. Now once you practice that repeatedly for a long period of time, what you want to try to do at that point is, I'll do it slow first, is come over and block, continue to sling, and keeping your hand, the sensitivity of your hand against his arm at all times, continue to circle and flow up into this lock once again that we used earlier. From here, another variation of the throw. If you push down and push on the wrist, you could disarm. If not, then you'll step across with your left foot, bring the arm over, drop down on your knee, bring him down in front. If they still have the knife at this point, drop onto your hips, push your left foot right at his neck area, and twist and disarm at this point. Now regular speed. The third angle I'll work against is a reverse slash position. The strike can come straight from the side, or you can practice letting them miss with a slash and then entering. The first one I'll be defending against is a slash to the neck area. You'll notice that what I've done is step in once the knife passes by and comes back using a double forearm block. This arm will block at the elbow, the other one at the wrist. From here, one of the basic grips, you'll push up and go right in with your left hand grabbing your bicep, trapping the arm at this point, and just turning left right into your sweep. You'll notice by disarming, I can push up or pull up on the wrist and keep him tight at this point. Now what I suggest is practice just entering after the slash, or just entering and blocking using the double forearm block repeatedly before you attempt the second half of the technique. Make sure to enter and block. So you're stepping back initially and then lunging forward. Now a little faster. Disarm. The second angle will be a reverse slash to the lower portion of my body. We're going to use a general block once again. As the knife comes from the opposite side, step in, general block. You notice my right hand is high, my left hand is low. At the same time, pretending as if your arms are attached with a pin driving all the way through them, you'll grab with this hand and rotate this hand straight over in a circular fashion. Practice breaking the bend of the elbow down. From there, snake right through, reach between his arm with your hand into a shoulder lock. From this point, knee to the stomach, downward elbow, web hand to the throat, cut back with the heel behind the bend of his knee into a sweep. Now just a little faster. The fourth angle of knife defense will be against a thrust or a stab to the center. On this first block, we're going to use a double web block. What you'll be doing is crossing your thumbs, just putting your right hand on top of your left hand. You'll see that my thumbs are on top of each other to use a wide area of the hands. What we're going to do is push straight down and try to deflect the thrust straight down to the floor. At the same time, you'll notice I'm dropping my center down, or my feet are separating simultaneously at the same time. Once you get used to this, pushing down, you immediately grab the hand and go into your upward wrist flex. At this point, you can push in to try to disarm, or if you stay out, you'll be able to drive a front kick. Once again, thrusting, upward wrist flex. If you haven't disarmed, drive a front kick into the stomach. Now, any throw could be used here. At this point, we'll step across with the right foot again, drop down, use a circular Hapkido throw. Now working at full speed. Set, yeah, hit, yeah. The last technique I'll be working on, I'll be using a cross low block. If the thrust is coming straight in once again, dropping down, I'll be using the cross block as before when I use it against a downward strike. From here, immediately with your right hand, you'll grab the back of his hand. With your left hand, you'll push up, reinforcing your grip at the top of the circle. At this point, by continuing to flex, holding his hand in close to your chest, step over with your left leg. Make sure that your leg is against his head. From here, you have a shoulder lock. You can disarm by twisting. If for some reason he starts to get loose, you can get out of this position by spinning over the back with your right foot all the way around to here and finish him off with a front kick. Once again, just a little faster. Hit. Yeah. Hit. Yeah. The first gun technique I'll be working on is against a frontal attack. First of all, if the distance is right, the situation is right, and you've decided to try to defend yourself or disarm the person that has the gun, then I'm going to show you many different techniques that you can use. First of all, the gun is pointed to the center of your body, and once again, the distance has to be right if you're going to grab it with your hands in order to go for the weapon. The first technique I'll be working on, first of all, is if I move, there may not be enough time to move the feet, but you'll turn your body to the side. So if you can see me, as I turn my body to the side, if the weapon was to happen to go off, then hopefully it wouldn't hit me. At the same time, when you move, your left hand is going to come towards them and come back towards you, grabbing the top of the wrist with a palm hand. So what you need to practice is this move individually. Turning, hands coming back this way to grab the weapon and pull them off balance. You also notice my weapon, I'm using a wooden practice gun, and I fully advise using either a practice gun or a plastic weapon instead of a real gun in practicing these techniques. So once again, turning, grabbing, pulling them off balance. The weapon is all the time pointed away from you. At this point, come up from underneath, cross your thumbs into a wrist lock, twist the wrist back towards them. You'll notice the gun's pointed at his face. At this point, I'm going to be stepping back with my left foot into a nice wrist lock and a throw. You'll notice my knee goes right into the armpit, securing the arm, the shoulder, and the elbow. Pushing down. With the right hand, I can take the weapon straight out. I also have him still in a wrist lock position at this point. Okay, go back just a little faster, breaking it down. The first thing is turn and grab. The second thing is come up, reinforce your grip, stepping back, twisting the weapon towards him at the same time, locking his wrist. Step back with the left foot and throw. Circle right around, knee into the armpit, push down, lock the elbow, take the weapon out at that point. Step back and control your opponent. Here's a faster look. And once more. The second disarming technique I'll work on is again against the frontal attack. What you're going to be doing here is, first of all, your left hand is going to be coming from an outward direction, striking the back of the wrist. At the same time, your right hand is pushing the weapon away from you. You'll notice I'm going to be pushing the weapon towards him, trapping his finger in at that point. Just a little faster. The whole secret of the technique is working the coordination of both hands. The body's going to be turning right at the same time. So the left hand's coming in, right hand's pushing. As the weapon circles towards him, I'm starting to step back, taking him off balance at the same time, taking him right to the mat. I still have his trigger finger, locked into the trigger housing there. I can either break the finger, take the weapon away, and step back and control. Now, advising you when you practice this at full speed, make sure that your partner's finger is not entrapped there, because it does break very easily. What we're going to be working on now is just the timing of the disarm. Taking back. A couple more times a little faster. Once you make your move, it has to be total commitment into taking the weapon away. Once more. This disarming technique will be against an automatic weapon or a cylinder-operated weapon that's on single action. The reason that we train this way is because against an automatic weapon where the slide moves back and forward, or a cylinder-operated weapon that's in single action where the hammer only has to close forward, your reaction time is cut down almost in half. So what we're going to do during this disarming technique is practice a grab where we're grabbing the trigger finger from letting the weapon fire the first time. My right hand's going to be grabbing. As I turn my body, even if the weapon went off, to try to eliminate getting hit, my hand's going to be coming on the back of his wrist, as you see. My thumb is going to try to press against his index finger to keep him from having enough pressure to pull the trigger at that point. So what I advise doing is just hundreds or thousands of repetitions over a period of time, practicing grabbing the weapon at that point. All the time moving your body away. If it was the fire, then your hand still is not on top of the weapon to get injured. The second part of the technique is once the grab is secure, is we're going to come up underneath the weapon with a web hand, twist the weapon straight back towards them once again. If it does go off, then hopefully they'll get hit. From this point, stepping back, you'll see also that the trigger finger is entrapped here. Can break the trigger finger at that point. Your momentum stepping back will take them right down on their face. You can disarm at that point and control. Once again, real slow at this point. My turn and grab, my web hand, my flex, stepping back, pull them right on their face, either break the trigger finger, disarm, step away, and control. Just a little faster. This time the trigger finger will be out of there to eliminate any injury. This disarming technique will involve taking a weapon away when it's being held close to the body. Professionally trained people generally are taught to hold the gun in closer to the body to keep from having it taken away, which is what we're working against. What I like to do here, if it's pointed straight at my chest, is I'm going to dart at the same time turning my body to the side. So your step is forward with your left foot, but the body is turned sideways as to eliminate my body from the angle of the barrel. At this point, I'm going to push down or grab down on the wrist and push up with a web hand at this point, making the gun go back into the chest or neck area. So your step and grab is very, very important in this movement. From here, all you have to do is slide up with your right foot, cut back with an outside sweep. You still have the weapon pointed at them at that point. You can take the weapon away, step back and control. Once again, a little faster. This disarming technique will involve reacting at the same time the weapon is drawn or shortly thereafter. It will involve leaping from your original position to the side, going around the neck with a choke and a takedown and a spread out. The first move, as the weapon is being drawn, I'm going to be turning my body, leaping in the air, coming across the neck. At this point, coming around behind him. As I circle behind, you'll reach across with your other hand, pull the weapon back, drop him down to the ground. You'll use your thigh to disarm the weapon. From here, you have him in a choking position that we covered earlier. Now, just a little bit faster move by move. As soon as the weapon starts to come up, leap around the neck, circle behind, take him to the mat. From here, use your thigh to break the weapon away, secure the choke at that point. During this disarming technique, I'll be working on an attack from the rear. If you can feel the weapon, fine, you know which technique to do. If not, you're going to have to turn to look. In this case, the weapon is in my lower back. I'm going to be turning left. At the same time, you'll see my left arm come around, blocking the weapon away from me. Immediately, my hand will then come up, creating a vise. At the same time, I'm stepping across with my right foot, coming under, grabbing, entering for a body drop or shoulder throw. Real slow once again. I feel the weapon. I look, turn at the same point, block the weapon away, vise, so he still can't use the weapon or point it at me or fire it. If it does, it's not pointed at me. Grab the forearm, enter, and throw. From this point, come right back over your knee, disarm the weapon, and control. Once again, a little faster. Now the same technique, but against the weapon being pointed at your back or back of your neck or your head area. When you turn this time, you're going to be using the center block or knife hand block. At that point, you'll wrap and grab, enter for your throw from this position. Now another disarming technique from the rear. This time, instead of turning left, I'll be moving right or outside my opponent's body. I'll be using a low block when I turn. So again, when I turn right, you'll see that my tricep of my right arm will move the weapon away from me. At that point, this hand comes up, pulls straight back towards my body. You'll notice the angle of the weapon now is pointed at my opponent. From here, reach up with your left hand, twist the weapon away, take it out. So again, a little slower. Turn, parry, vise, disarm. Now continuing the counterattack, change your weapon to the other hand. You can strike at that point, reach up and grab the attacking hand, step back, take him to the mat, and control. Once again, just a little faster. One very similar to the last one we just completed is turning, blocking the same way, vicing the same way. But step on back with your left foot in a circular fashion. Pull them off balance at this point. From here you can take the weapon. You have them in a wrist lock at this point. Turn back to your left. It'll take them right back up on your back. You can circle around and have them in control. Once again, slow. Turning right. Parry. Vice. Step circle. Take them off balance at that point. Disarm. Reverse wrist flex. And control. Once again. Now from a side attack. The weapon is pointing to your side, in this case to my left side. What you're going to do is drop your head down, at the same time block up. Hitting down on the bend of his elbow with my ridge hand or forearm, breaking the elbow back, creating a vice. From this point, turn, step back with your left foot, unbalance him, take him to the ground. You can pin him down with your knees. You have him in an arm lock. Retain the grip with your left hand, spread the arm out over your leg, and take it out with your right hand. Once again, as soon as you react, Drop down, block up, hit vice, take them down, spread the arm out, take the weapon away. And for a third time. Now gets the weapon pointed at your head. First of all, you have to move your head and block at the same time. From here, you could kick to the groin. What I'm going to do now is move behind my opponent. My left hand is grabbing his wrist. My right arm is grabbing behind. I duck under with my head using the leverage of my neck to create pressure on the elbow for the disarm at this point. Stepping behind into a wrist lock, sweep, take him down onto the mat. Once again, once you react, block out, kick, grab behind with your right hand, use your head to create pressure on the elbow, step behind, wrist lock. From here, grab, use your right foot behind to